on current events and life in Tampa Bay. Online at consumerqb.com.
All right, welcome back. Brandon Rhymes here. Brandon Rhymes here, Consumer Quarterback Show. That was a fun interview with the sheriff. That was an interesting take on some of those different events, current events, and crime and human trafficking. Interesting take on that. We're going to talk with Mark Haye here. We got Mark Haye in the house, our financial advisor, expert contributor. Lots of great tips and tricks when it comes to minimizing the amount of taxes that you have to pay. Of course, legally, morally, ethically. You got to pay your taxes, of course, but we're going to talk about different ways. And we're also going to talk about the 4 I's here coming up on the Consumer Quarterback Show. His book, 0% as well, tax-free retirement as well, with Mark Haye coming up in just a moment. Before we do, a couple of hot listings. We always like to feature our listings. Platinum MVP team, Keller Williams Realty, got some hot listings here in Tampa Bay and beyond. Let's go with a couple Orlando. We've got an Orlando property here at 17805 US 192. This one's technically in Claremont. Some people call it just outside of Orlando here. You are close to Disney World. You're close to SeaWorld downtown. This is a property that we've got on US 192. It's 17805 US 192 in Claremont. This property here, it's a single story multi-tenant retail property that offers almost 1,800 square feet, 100% occupied, well-maintained, high traffic area, ample parking, 122 on-site parking spaces, close proximity to commercial, retail, and hospitality. You have Denny's as a tenant, an anchor tenant there at 17805 US 192 in Claremont, Florida. Now, this is a co-listing that we've got with the Meraki Group, Keller Williams Legacy Realty, and, of course, the Platinum MVP team co-listing that property with them. All right, let's look at a local Tampa Bay property here, 7202 US Highway 301 South in Riverview. This one is a commercial property. You've got a mechanic shop, you got a barber shop, corner lot, great location, up to 50,000 vehicles a day passing by, newer roof, AC unit, great opportunity to own a premium commercial property lot here in Tampa Bay with a great opportunity with traffic coming by. 7202 US Highway 301 South in Riverview. And you can see all of our real estate listings at platinumcoastalelite.com. All right, Mark Haye back in the studio. Welcome back, sir.
Good to see you again. Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, my pleasure. Absolutely. Let's jump into it, man. You talk about the 4 I's. What do we got with 4 I's?
Yeah, so that, the big mantra thing that I always like to take control of your finances. Don't let the banks and financial institutions and the government use you. Let's use them. And let's create income today, not waiting 30, 40 years from now to enjoy it. So I tell people very simply, we look at the 4 I's. First thing is the IRS, and we always talk the same thing. Don't tip the IRS. So I met with a couple just last week, and they make $150,000 a year, looking to retire, W-2 employees, et cetera. They got some retirement plans, et cetera. And I said, well, we got to find a way to put the expenses into deductions because you're paying what, $40,000 a year in taxes. Yeah, we're paying about $40,000 a year in taxes. I said, okay, that's a $3,600 a month right there of income. Wow. that we could try to get, legally and ethically. So here I am sitting in our house, and we're going through this, and I'm looking around and going, who made all this stuff over here? You got that plate over there, you got that over here, you got ornament over here. I go, who's making all this stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, I do. I go, man, it's really good. I've never seen anything like this. How are you selling it? She goes, yeah, I sell $60, $70. I'm like, have you formed any kind of LLC or anything? No, I just do it with family and friends. I go, man, you got a business. I said, how much did it cost you to make that right there? That unit, that widget. I don't know, $3. You're all in for $3. How much you sell it for? $60, $70. Just depends, what it is. I go, your markup's over 1,000%. You have no overhead. I mean, how many of these can you push out a day is my question. How many employees can we get in here? Yeah. Because that is an insane business model. You know what I mean? So the bottom line is, let's form an LLC. Just call it Your Name Creations LLC. Now all of a sudden, this thing that you're doing is going to become a side business, side hustle. You're going to retire and do this. She goes, well, yeah, I want to do that in retirement. I want to go to shows and craft and this. I said, okay, well, we're going to make this into a business now.
I love it.
So we're forming an LLC for her. But the point is, we're shifting expenses into deductions. So everything that they're doing, we can now go through that as deductions. Your car, auto, it's part of your utilities, everything, because she's going to work from home. Now all of a sudden, instead of paying $40,000 a year in taxes, maybe we pay $10,000. Okay, that's $30,000 a year difference. That's $2,500 a month right there that we just generated, and we haven't talked about investments. Shifting expenses to deductions, having that LLC, having some of my business, and they're excited. Even the husband's like, yeah, and I can go get that saw I was talking about, and we can get plywood instead of little wood, and now your cost is $2. You know, so,
exactly.
so the point is, now they're getting excited. Like, yeah, this makes sense. Shift the expenses into deductions. So the first thing is IRS.
Before we leave IRS, I want to touch on Speaker Johnson. They put this bill together. I believe, I can't remember if it's passed or whatnot where we're at here, but what I liked about it is that he was pulling 14-something billion or so, wasn't it, from the IRS to fund Israel. And he's like, hey, how does that not make sense? Speaker Schumer says, or Schumer in the Senate says, he's talking negatively about it. What's wrong with that?
Exactly. I mean,
why do we need to spend new money? Why don't we just pull some of that money from the IRS?
I agree. I mean, and if take it from anybody, take it from them.
Yeah,
exactly. They take enough from us. You know what I mean? So take it from them. I agree with that. So stop tipping the IRS, expenses and deductions. Now, number 2, we look at insurance. And I just had a meeting this morning with a lady. When I say insurance, I mean we look at deductibles. We look at what you're paying in premiums, what kind of coverage. Sometimes you have duplicate coverage, etc. So you really need to look at it, because you don't really know. Sometimes you have multiple life insurance, multiple car insurance, so we look at that. But the point is, if you got emergency funds, that's an emergency fund, okay? So let's say you have $50,000 in a bank, and that's my emergency fund, and that money's been sitting there for year after year after year for emergency fund, okay? I'm just using that number. And then you're paying full coverage on your car. Let's just use that for example. And your insurance and everything is $600 a month for that car, okay? If you got into an accident and it was your fault, you have the emergency fund to go buy a new car. I mean, you don't want to, but it's there, hence emergency fund. What if we took that car insurance down to liability only? So instead of paying $600 a month, we pay $200 a month.
Right.
Now that's $400 a month of cash flow that you get to keep, that you can invest or your lifestyle or whatever you want to do, and everything's covered. You still have the coverage. The emergency funds in the bank in the event it's your fault. If it's their fault, the insurance going to pay for it. We do the same thing for health insurance. We got family of 4 or 5. Some of them are paying $1,500, $1,600 a month in health insurance. Yet you're sitting on this emergency fund over here that's in a bank doing nothing that's there for quote-unquote emergency. Mm-hmm. Well, instead of having a 0% deductible, let's go to a $15,000, $20,000 deductible, because if there's something that happens, we have the emergency fund. Now all of a sudden, instead of paying $1,500 a month, we're paying $500 a month. That's $1,000 a month of cash flow that you get to keep.
Right.
You don't have to do any of this stuff. I'm just telling you, this is what we do, and we look at insurance, and we look at the IRS. We say, how can we increase cash flow? Because we want to have your lifestyle today. We don't want to wait 30, 40 years from now for the accumulation to kick in and say, okay, now we're going to retire. Let's develop that lifestyle today. So IRS and insurance are the first 2 that we look at. And you guys get the point. Some of the examples we gave you.
Yeah, it's a hybrid between self-insured, because some of my wealthy friends I grew up with that were farmers, and they have these awesome businesses, citrus, etc. They would just self-insure. It's the first time I kind of heard that term. Oh, you don't have insurance? No, we self-insure. The truck breaks down, we'll buy a new truck. So it's it's a hybrid, but you're increasing cash flow. That's the
correct.
key.
Yeah, you're increasing cash flow, and if you get that extra $1,000, $1,500 a month, it makes a big difference, especially in times of today. When people are living paycheck to paycheck or credit card debts going out of control. Sometimes you just need to sit down and look at what you're doing. What kind of insurance do we have? You know what I mean? Or can we adjust it? Because we do have this fund over here. Now if you don't have an emergency fund, I'm not telling you to start whacking all these things down, because you want to have coverage. You know what I mean? But if you do have that emergency fund, then utilize that.
Right.
That's there for that emergency that happened. And then it lowers it, and you have a cash flow. I mean, and I've been driving in Florida for quite some time now, 20 years, and it's like the Wild West around here. I mean, it's like crazy, these roads. Mm-hmm. And I've been in several accidents. None of them have been mine, knock on wood,
mm-hmm.
So the insurance company paid. But, if I did have a problem where I was my fault, I have emergency fund. So I have all just liability,
mm-hmm.
So I pay $100, $150 a month maybe for my vehicle insurance. But I know that if something happens, I have the cash to do it,
mm-hmm.
So I'm not paying these big premiums, and my cash flow just keeps increasing. Same with health insurance. It's more like a catastrophic for me for health insurance.
Yeah, exactly.
Knock on wood. Again, I'm healthy. I don't take any medications. I work out. I eat right. But God forbid if something happens, I do have health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a very high deductible, but I have the cash to meet that deduction.
Right.
You know what I mean? So instead of paying $600 or $1,000 a month like some people pay, I paid $250. You know what I mean? So again, my cash flow just keeps increasing, but I have the emergency fund. Got to have the emergency fund.
Smart money moves here with Mark Haye, 21st Century Financial Group. We're talking with Mark about the ways that you can keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket or bank account, or precious metals or investments, whatever you want to do. Work with Mark. Get a review as well. That's something else. Get a review of what you're currently doing, and he's going through the 4 I's. So we talked about IRS, insurance.
Yep. Next up is the interest, and we look at interest. We look at what you're paying is fees and interest on credit cards, mortgage, etc. So when I say fees, and most people don't know this, let's take a 401k. You're looking at a 2% fee annually on that, okay? Because you have a very high administration fees because it's a group plan. Inside of that is mutual funds, and they have 80 basis points or a percent fee every year. That's not included in the investment fee. You got to add that stuff. So when I say 2%, I'm probably being very kind. But let's say 2%. If you had $1 million at 2%, that's $20,000 a year that you're paying in fees. If you have $100,000, you're paying $2,000 in fee, and that grows. It goes with it.
And that's
okay,
yearly.
yeah, it goes with it.
And
so
it's compounded.
You got it. So if you keep growing with that, your fee will go with it. So let's just stop at $1 million for simple math. You're paying $20,000 that year in fees. If I take that 401k and I move it to an IRA, like most advisors are going to do, they're going to move it to an IRA, and then now your fee cuts in half. You're at 1%, 1.5%. So instead of paying $20,000 a year, you're paying $10,000 a year. You still have the same opportunities to be in Wall Street, the market, etc. But you have more opportunities because you have more mutual funds to choose from in stocks, whereas the 401k is limited. But we're just talking about the fees right now. So again, you cut the fees in half. Then there's a self-directed IRA, which most advisors will never bring up because they don't get paid on it. Okay? And you pay $450 to have that self-directed IRA. So you went from $20,000 a year in a fee to $450, and that stays level. So that $450 stays it. So if the money grows like we want it to, you stay at $450. Whereas if you do the traditional IRA or 401k and that account grows, your fee goes with it. Okay, so that 1% continues to keep growing and compounding just like your interest. Once you go into the self-directed IRA, you pay $450, and then you open that up to just everything. You don't just have to do Wall Street. And
real estate.
Real estate
in there.
You could put bridge loans in there, tax lien stuff in there, Airbnb, storage units. Whatever it is you want to do, you don't have to be at the mercy of Wall Street. And that's my point. And we want to use Wall Street. We don't want to get used by them anymore.
Right.
And so, again, we look at the interest, and that's just one example of fees. How do you eliminate that? So if we go back to number one, I say to $30,000 a year in that couple for the IRS. Then I looked at the insurance, meaning high deductibles, your premiums in your car insurance, health insurance. We say to you, what, another $12,000 a year. Then we go to here. That's $20,000 a year just in fees and your 401k/IRA.
Right.
Now we're up to $60,000, $70,000 right now. Then we haven't even got into investments.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And then do you look at credit cards? A lot of people right now is a big thing with credit card debt because paying 20, 25% in credit card interest rates right now, and credit card debt is skyrocketing. I tell people all the time, it's worth one phone call. If you called your credit card company and said, hey, I'm going to be transferring this money out to another credit card. I got a better interest rate over at Visa or MasterCard. They're not going to say thank you. They're going to say, hold on a minute. Let me get to our retention center.
Exactly.
And they're going to go and negotiate this interest rate with you.
Yes.
Okay? It's no different than if you have cable. I don't have it anymore, but back in the day, I'd always call DirecTV and say, man, I can't pay this anymore. It's $100. I need, well, you know what? We got a special for 12 months. Here we go. And they drop it. Everything is negotiable when it comes to a loan or interest rate on a loan.
Yep.
So you just have to make that phone call. And we do that with people. We'll call them up and say, we just need to restructure this, or we're going to transfer this to a 0%. And there are still cards out there that are 0%, 1% if you got good credit.
Right.
Just transfer it to that for 1 year, and then and you can certainly lower that. Then we look at your mortgage. If you got 3% mortgage and people want to pay off their mortgage and they got the money in the bank, I say, look, 3% mortgage is really cheap money. Instead of making the bank wealthy and giving them the $150 you owe, $150,000 you owe, keep the money. We'll make it work for you. And let's say we just made 6% on that money. That's 100% return.
Right.
You have 3% positive cash flow that you could still pay the mortgage, and you get the 3% cash flow, and you get to keep your money. And if another opportunity comes, you're sitting on the cash to pounce on that opportunity.
Yeah.
Where the bank, if they got your money, they would just do it themselves.
Yeah, and there's opportunities coming, too.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime there's a down market or a depression or anything like that, there's more millionaires made. Just got to have the cash.
Yeah. Let's take a quick break there. More from Mark Haye coming up. Mark Haye, 21st Century Financial Group, throwing out some great tips, some great knowledge there. Wow, I hope you're taking notes on that. And follow up with a review. You can always get him at consumerqb.com. You can see links there to all of our expert contributors, all his contact information, consumerqb.com. Sit down, have a review, and talk about his book as as well. 0% tax-free retirement. Coming up, I'm going to play a clip from Elon Musk as well. Really cool, interesting clip that he brought out recently, and more financial tips and information, golden nuggets from Mark Haye, 21st Century Financial Group, consumerqb.com.
Hey, this is Grant Cardone, and you've been listening to the phenomenal Brandon Rhymes, the Consumer Quarterback Show.
To get in touch with Brandon, call 727-263-3707. Online at consumerqb.com.
Patriot Mobile is America's only Christian conservative wireless provider who shares your values. They offer the very best nationwide coverage on 4G and 5G LTE networks and exceptional 100% US-based customer support. Patriot Mobile offers discounts for veterans and first responders, NRA members, and families with multiple lines. Learn more at patriotmobile.com/consumer QB. That's patriotmobile.com/consumer QB. Or if you'd like to give us a call, you can reach out at 727-263-3707. That's 727-263-3707. And we'd be happy to tell you more about Patriot Mobile. Selling commercial, vacant land, or residential properties? Don't leave money on the table. List with the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. I'm Brandon Rhymes. You can reach me at 727-263-3707. Call or text 727-263-3707. Online at consumerqb.com.
You're listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Online at consumerqb.com. Brandon is Tampa Bay's #1 consumer advocate for real estate and financial advice. Call Brandon today at 813-917-1894.
All right, Brandon Rhymes here, Consumer Quarterback Show, powered by the Platinum MVP team, Keller Williams Realty. Some golden nuggets there on the financial side from Mark Haye. Talk about the 4 I's: IRS, insurance, interest, and then, of course, investment. So some really awesome content there. Talk to Mark, get that review, set up a time to talk to him. Before we get back into this, I want to let you know about one of our hot listings here in Tampa Bay. We got a property at 15900 Oakcrest Circle in Brooksville. This is a large home. The owner actually has a really cool generator that's set up here on this property as well. It's set up on propane. Great opportunity at 15900 Oakcrest Circle in Brooksville, Florida. Beautiful property, large bedrooms, large lots. So the further north you go in our listening audience, you're going to get larger land, more land, and that's a great property at 15900 Oakcrest Circle here in Tampa Bay. You can see all of our listings at PlatinumCoastalElite.com. That's PlatinumCoastalElite.com. All right, quick shout out as well to Weed Busters, WeedBustersFloridaFL.com. That's Weed Busters. If you live on a lake or a body of water and you have these this hydrilla, these weeds that grow, check out WeedBustersFL.com. Check them out online. You can see these big machines that they have, and they do a great job with our real estate properties as well. WeedBustersFL.com. All right, Mark Haye in the house. Mark, I wanted to play this clip. It was really cool. Just some stuff that came out from Elon Musk in his interview with Joe Rogan.
Make no mistake, Elon Musk consumes this information. Elon Musk quote tweeted one of our tweets yesterday. He's done that repeatedly.
That's Charlie
Elon
Kirk.
Musk follows a lot of what Jack Posobiec puts out. The truth will win. 2 years ago, Elon Musk, was on the sidelines. Twitter was run by Dorsey and that foreigner who hates the country and the LGBT activist, Yoel Roth. 2 years later, we have a Twitter platform where we can speak openly and freely. We can go viral in a moment's notice. The owner is identifying George Soros as a quasi-Lucifer. And Joe Rogan goes in the direction where, without even batting an eye, Joe Rogan's like, yeah, that mind virus is going to destroy all of civilization. Didn't fight it. And for Rogan not to fight something means he agrees. It means it's so obvious. Rogan's like, yeah, of course. That's why I left California.
So there's a lot of reasons for optimism too. Thinking about on a macro here. I mean, look at Twitter now. People can actually put out, different ideas, and you can have a counter narrative to the one that was so prevalent just a couple years ago.
Yeah, and I think it's called X now or something. I still call it Twitter just because so used to it.
Yeah.
But I am I am happy and grateful that Elon Musk took over this.
Yep.
Because it was a problem. Okay, without getting into it, was a problem.
Big time.
And he's now making a profit on this thing, which is crazy to me, that he went in there and, clean house and kind of restructured this, now he's making a profit. But going into the election year,
Yep.
it's a lot different having this platform than we
Exactly.
did 4 years ago. So I'm anxious to see how this works out, because
Yes.
now everybody has a voice.
Yes.
And people can deny or say whatever they want, but there was suppression.
Big time.
And we were only getting fed one thing in 2020.
Yep.
We're going to get both sides or three sides or whatever it is, because they're not going to be, limiting, and they're not just going to be pushing an agenda anymore.
Yes.
And that is a major platform that I can't wait to kind of see how this evolves for next year and election year. So I'm very grateful that Elon Musk went in and actually did this, because he
Yeah.
put up a lot of his own money for something that may or may not make it, and it was for the betterment of the country, in my mind,
Yeah.
to give free speech and everything else. I mean, and going and attacking George Soros. I mean, if anybody follows what George Soros has done, I mean, it's something else. And so I hope he has a lot of bodyguards. Because
I'm sure he does.
He's going against a mammoth there. But
He does.
God bless him for speaking his mind, and people don't have to agree with him. But I just think that platform is going to be very interesting for our election year.
Yeah, absolutely, no doubt, and that's a big point. And I do think it's divine intervention. I think Florida, or I think America, Florida, yeah, of course, but America is. It's biblical. It's a providence that came with our founding fathers, right? I mean, they were 99%, Christian, Judeo-Christian, believed in the Bible, believed in the ethics and the morals and the values that are in the Torah, and of course the New Testament. But when you look at that, and you think about how far we've come, and in another big development in the last few weeks, Speaker Johnson, another strong Christian, another person that is believes in, it almost boils down to normal stuff, right? Another normie that believes in normal things versus the men can have women type crowd. And speaking on Elon, the Soros laws, this is another clip that dives a little bit deeper than the second clip. So I'm going to play a quick clip.
Will the people with power, forget the political power, they're largely a waste of time. Will they start saying the stuff that we're noticing? This interview, I can't even put into words, guys, is an incredible stimulus of optimism. I would rather have Elon Musk and Joe Rogan dialoguing in this political awakening more so than even people in D.C.
Yeah, so that's the point, right? And then it goes in to talk about some of the laws that that are not being enforced. I mean, it's unbelievable.
And then go back to Elon Musk. I mean, I have a lot of respect for him, but I just saw an article that came out that SpaceX is now showing a profit.
Wow.
Which is insane to me, that some individual could make some kind of a space company and then generate that as a positive cash flow. And he just secured another humongous billion-to-some-dollar contract from the government and NASA. So this guy is so freaking smart. That NASA's going to him, paying him billions of dollars, to have his technology or whatever he's doing. So, I don't know. I got a lot of respect for that guy.
But isn't the DOJ coming after him too?
I'm sure everybody is.
Remember, he wasn't hiring enough illegals. Remember?
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think that's what it was.
But he does a lot of good things, and he's somebody to look up to. But he does take away from his life, because he puts everything into these companies.
It's optimism. It's optimism for us, for the good folks here, that are on the right side and that really, love our country, love what's happening, love what we built, love the, there's an old country song, Merle Haggard, he says something like, they love our milk and honey, but they want to change the way, or something like that. You're getting on the fighting side of me. I don't know for any of the folks that like old school country music there, but Merle Haggard. All right, where do you want people to connect with you at, Mark?
Yep, you can just text or call me at 727-804-7220.
Awesome. Good
Thank
stuff.
you so much.
ConsumerQB.com as well. You can see links there to all of Mark's contact information online at ConsumerQB.com. Well, hey, another great show. We had Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Galtieri on the program. We went over the 4 Eyes with Mark Haye. And also, we want you to please go out there and consider committing a random act of kindness. Do something kind for one another. Be a force for good in the community. And we'll see you next time right here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, ConsumerQB.com.
You've been listening to The Consumer Quarterback, Brandon Rhymes. Whether it's real estate, consumer, or financial advice, let Brandon call your next play. Call